The thing that people tell us they hate the most about divorce is the financials. They hate how expensive divorce is to begin with. They hate having to pay somebody like me to represent them. But they also hate having to lay all of their finances out in the open for everyone to examine. Sometimes we don't like seeing what our financial status actually is. We may have more debts than we would like. We may not be making enough money. Or we may just not know what the finances are at all, and that can be a little bit embarrassing to admit that you haven't paid attention to that kind of thing in the past. There are ways to make the process of dealing with the finances in divorce a lot easier. And we start out by doing a marital balance sheet. Basically what that is a spreadsheet that has all of the assets, all of the debts, everything that there is financially in the marriage, all laid out in one place. So we'll go through and we'll ask you, are there retirement accounts? Are there bank accounts, both savings and checkings? Are there stocks? Are there any properties, real estate, both that you might live in or other properties, the vacation place or a piece of land somewhere? We're going to ask if there are vehicles. We're going to ask if there are any children in the marriage, if they have bank accounts. We'll ask if there's insurance, if you have whole life insurance. All of those are assets that we would want to know, even if they are your spouses. So we're going to ask both your and your spouse's information so that we can have it all in one place. We're going to do the same thing for the debts too. We're going to ask, is there any medical debt? Are there credit cards? Is there a mortgage? Are there car payments? Do you owe your parents money for the down payment on your house? All of those things need to go on your marital balance sheet. And then we'll look at what is marital and we'll look at what is separate property. And marital property is anything that was accrued during the marriage. So it doesn't matter if it has your name, if it's titled in your name or if it's entitled in your spouse's name, but anything that was accrued during the marriage is marital. Except if it was something like an inheritance, a gift, or like a settlement that you had from an injury or that kind of thing. Those might be considered separate property of one party or the other. And we're going to note all of that on the marital balance sheet. And then once we have a good look at everything, we're going to think about what a judge might do in your situation. And in Georgia, judges are looking at what would be equitable. What would be an equitable division of marital assets and debts? And that doesn't mean 50-50, not necessarily. It doesn't mean that the person who makes more money gets more money or the person who makes less money gets more money. It means what would be equitable in this particular situation. And so I like to think of a vehicle. If you have a nice car, a judge isn't going to say, okay, 50-50, we're going to cut the car in half and you get 50% and you get 50%. Judge might say, okay, you get your car, and we're going to find assets somewhere else to offset any cost differential. Or the judge might say, the only asset there is are cars. Doesn't matter if one's more expensive than the other. You get your car, we're just going to be done with it. Okay. Same with things like retirement account. A judge may say, this person was a higher job, wage earner. They earned more in retirement, but they're also going to have a better likelihood of earning more before they retire. Whereas this other person, they might have a good job, but they haven't saved as much for retirement, and they might not be able to earn as much for their retirement. The judge may award the person with the less ability to earn retirement in the future, might award them more of the retirement accounts, even if they were titled in the other person's name. It can be complicated. There's a lot of situations where something might be marital, it might be half marital, half separate property. It could, there's lots of issues. And so if you are concerned about this, if your finances are a little bit weird, if you have businesses that might need to be divided, these are all really good reasons to talk to an attorney. And they're really good reasons to think in advance even of your divorce about what these kind of assets and debts are and start pulling together documents. And so a lot of the documents we look at bank statements, credit card statements, we look at the mortgage statements, we look at the actual mortgage documents sometimes. We'll want plan statements. If you have a retirement plan, what does that actually look like? What's vested, what's not vested? If you have your insurance information, we want to see all of that so that we can make sure we're getting an accurate accounting of what all of the assets and debts are, so that we can reasonably divide those for you. Hope is that if we can see it all on paper, if we can agree to what all of the assets and debts are, that settlement is a lot easier, and we can deal with that at mediation or in a settlement agreement, or go to court and have it all laid out nicely for the judge to be able to see exactly what there is, so that the judge just needs to go through and tick down each of the properties. And the argument is more about what is equitable rather than what the properties are.